My girlfriend Ava had always loved being the center of attention. Seriously, it was like a drug for her. Whether we were at a quiet dinner or a huge party, she had this knack for making everything about her. I used to find it charming, even endearing. I thought it was just confidence. But over time, that charm started to feel more like a performance, and I was just a prop in her one-woman show. The rooftop party that night was supposed to be a celebration for our friend Mark. The city lights were sparkling below. The music was good. The vibe was perfect. Everyone was just relaxing, having a good time. But I should have known Ava wouldn't let the night belong to anyone else for too long. I was chatting with a couple of friends near the bar when I saw her grab her drink, a bright pink cocktail, and step into the middle of the open area. She raised the glass like she was about to give a toast. I felt a familiar knot tighten in my stomach. Here we go, I thought. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. She turned, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on me. A smirk played on her lips. Then she shouted, her voice cutting through the chatter and the music like a knife. "You'll never be good enough for me." The entire patio went silent. Dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People froze with drinks halfway to their mouths. Even the DJ seemed to have turned down the music. Every single person turned to look at me. Their faces were a mix of shock, pity, and morbid curiosity. They were waiting for the explosion. They were waiting for me to yell back, to defend my pride, to cause a scene. They were waiting for the drama to escalate. But I didn't give them what they wanted. Instead, I just smiled. It wasn't a fake smile or a forced one. It was calm, steady, and if I'm being honest, it was a smile of pure relief. I took a slow step towards her, closing the distance between us. The crowd held its breath. I leaned in and said quietly, but just loud enough for the people closest to us to hear, "I know. That's why I stopped trying. I started packing my things this morning." Her smirk vanished. It was like watching a mask crack and fall off her face. The shock that had been on everyone else's face was now on hers. The onlooker's eyes widened. Someone gasped audibly. I kept my voice perfectly level. No anger, no bitterness, just painful honesty. "I gave you everything, Ava. My time, my energy, my love. But it was never enough, was it? Nothing I ever did measured up. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a trophy to polish when you felt good and to tarnish when you were bored." She started blinking fast, her brain clearly struggling to catch up. This wasn't in her script. For the first time in our entire relationship, she wasn't in control of the narrative. I reached into my jacket pocket. The crowd probably thought I was going for a ring. The irony would have been incredible. But it wasn't a ring. I pulled out a small, crisp white envelope and placed it gently on the table right beside her half-finished cocktail. Her eyes darted down to it. "Your name is officially off the lease," I said, my voice still steady. "The landlord has the new agreement. You'll need to find a new place by the end of the month." Now the whispers started. It was like a wave rippling through the crowd. I saw our friend, Sarah, put a hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ava's face had gone completely pale, a stark white against the city lights. "Bubby, wait." "What?" she stammered, her voice a fraction of its usual volume. "You're serious?" I just nodded slowly. "Completely serious. You chose to try and embarrass me in public tonight. I chose to free myself in private this morning. The timing is just a coincidence." I turned away from her then, leaving her standing there with the envelope and her shattered ego. And the most incredible thing happened. The crowd, the same people who were staring at me with pity just a minute ago, parted for me. They moved aside, creating a clear path to the elevator, like I was some kind of king leaving his court. It was surreal. I pressed the call button and waited for the doors to open. As I stepped inside, I heard her voice behind me. It wasn't shouting anymore. It was thin, desperate, begging. Please, don't leave. The doors started to slide shut, framing her panicked face. I didn't even turn around to look at her one last time. I just spoke to the closing gap between the doors. "You're right, Ava," I said, letting the finality of the moment sink in. "I'm not good enough for you." The doors sealed with a soft hiss. "I'm better." And as the elevator began its descent, I finally let out the breath I felt like I'd been holding for 3 years. I was free, and that felt better than any party ever could. Thanks for watching. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to choose yourself, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time. The elevator doors closed, and for the first time in what felt like forever, a wave of lightness washed over me. The constant weight on my shoulders, the tension that had become my shadow weight, all just vanished. All that was left was the gentle hum of the elevator, silence, and a feeling I hadn't realized I missed so much. Freedom, but I knew the night wasn't over. Not yet. I finally got home, kicked off my shoes, and sank into the couch, letting out a long, slow breath. The quiet of my apartment felt like a sanctuary. But then, the silence was shattered by the piercing ring of the doorbell. I glanced at the clock. 1:12 in the morning. Of course. A part of me, a very tired part, already knew who it was. I dragged myself to the door and opened it, just a crack at first. There she was. Ava, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hair a mess, clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Just talk to me." I didn't say a word. I just stepped aside. Not to invite her in, but to let her see what was waiting by the hallway. A packed suitcase, zipped and ready. Her eyes went wide, the last bit of color draining from her face. You're really leaving?" she asked, her voice barely audible. I just nodded. "I told you, Ava. I'm done." She walked past me anyway, her hands trembling as she entered the living room we used to share. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain," she said, her voice rising with a hint of desperation. I just raised an eyebrow. "Explain what? Exactly? Explain telling me I'm not good enough in front of 20 of our friends. Explain making me the punchline of a joke I wasn't in on. What is there to explain?" She opened her mouth to argue, but then she just shut it again. For once, there were no excuses. Not this time. Instead, she sank onto the edge of the couch, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I didn't want people to think you had the upper hand," she finally whispered into her hands. I just stared at her, completely baffled. The upper hand. This wasn't a game. This was our life. Our relationship. What are you even talking about? She finally broke down completely, the tears coming in a flood. My friends, they were always in my ear. She confessed between sobs, telling me I should be with someone with more money. Someone more. I don't know, high status. They made me feel like I was settling. I thought if I acted like I didn't care about you, if I put you down, they would finally respect me. They would see I was in control. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just shook my head, a sad, bitter laugh escaping my lips. "So you humiliated me. You made me feel worthless to impress people who don't even care about you. People who, if they were really your friends, would be happy that you're happy." She wiped at her eyes, but she didn't have an answer. She just sat there, broken, surrounded by the mess she had created. The silence in the room was heavier than ever. I looked at her, sitting there, a shadow of the woman I fell in love with. The anger I felt earlier had faded, replaced by a deep, profound sadness. "Ava," I said, my voice softer now. "I didn't leave because you told me I wasn't good enough." She looked up, a flicker of hope in her tear-filled eyes. I had to crush it. "For both our sakes, I left because you showed me you didn't value me. And a relationship without respect, without value, it's already over. It's just an empty shell." Her face crumpled, the last bit of her composure shattering. "Can't we fix it?" she pleaded, her voice a desperate whisper. "We can go to therapy. I can change. I'll cut them off. I'll do anything." I walked over and picked up my suitcase. The weight of it felt right in my hand. It felt like my future. "No," I said, as gently as I could. "I'm choosing myself this time." As I headed for the door, she rushed forward and grabbed my arm one last time, her touch almost a burn. "Will you ever forgive me?" she whispered, her eyes searching mine for any sign of the past. I looked at her, and for a moment, I saw everything we were and everything we could never be again. I gently pulled my arm away from her grasp. "Yes," I said, and I meant it. "I will. But forgiveness isn't the same as staying." And with that, I walked out. I didn't look back. I closed the door behind me, leaving her alone in the apartment we once shared, a place that was now just a collection of memories. As I walked down the hallway, the light seemed warmer, brighter. It felt like the first sunrise after a long, brutal storm. And for the first time in a very long time, I knew I was going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had to make a tough choice to put yourself first, let me know in the comments. Your story matters. And if you connected with this, please consider subscribing for more. It means the world. Thanks for watching.